Good evening to those bored enough to watch. In order for every product to be successful, the publisher must be able to market the game properly. This is due to the fact that one needs to build an audience of some kind to market their product to, and then at the same time they also need to peak and maintain their interest throughout the announcement to the release of the product. This is to ensure that the product can have enough attention paid to it so that when it is released, it can have a healthy amount of sales when it is, as always making more than what is spent is always vital. Of course, I'm no entrepreneur. In fact, I speak as someone with very little knowledge about business and marketing and the sort. Everything I just said simply comes from me logically speaking and just me adding two and two together wherever necessary. I'm not really one who studies the concept of business outside of the knowledge I have on it, but I do want to discuss the concept of marketing in video games and why such a thing is important. Throughout the course of what I've seen with video games in recent times, I feel as though bringing such a thing up is important because while it is true that not many of us acknowledge the marketing of a video game, this is true to the fact that poor marketing can only be noticed when the marketing of something is objectively bad. Normally, we can see games succeed in marketing their game, but fail when it comes to delivering upon the final game. And this is due to a lot of reasons, such as the game being rushed, causing the developers to sometimes have to release the game in an unfinished, buggy state, or this can be due to the fact that the time needed to make the game has been severely mismanaged, causing the developers to have to throw together whatever they can to release the game in a finished state, cutting corners wherever they can to accomplish this. The 2 points I just mentioned, or the developers simply weren't focused very much when developing the game. However, sometimes we can see times where the marketing fails and the game itself succeeds, especially during the reveals where this is important, due to the fact that bad marketing tends to overshadow the game itself, with good gameplay being misconstrued due to the marketing of the game, not that it's the fault of the fans who watched the marketing unfold. Marketing is important, and when the game's marketing fails, it can cause a lot of consequences to take effect on the game, and this is something I want to discuss in this video. So, with that said, let's discuss why marketing matters. Marketing and how it is done can result in a lot of different things. It essentially shows to the audience what the developers are capable of. While in many cases a lot of the marketing isn't decided by those actually making the game, the marketing still represents the things that they make, due to the fact that it shows what they're capable of in terms of developing a game. They need to take care of the marketing of their game because said marketing will show off their game, and the result of said marketing will possibly determine the sales their game may make. Marketing of a game not only impacts those within the marketing department, it affects the work of those around them. It affects the developers, as I mentioned earlier, and it also affects the reputation of the game being marketed, and it affects the reputation of the company as a whole, due to the fact that it can be somewhat representative of the company as a whole in some cases, especially when you're marketing an entry into a beloved franchise of your mascot. If some of you know what I'm referring to, then do wait, as I'll go into this further in due course, but for those in the back, I'll put a pin in this for now and discuss it further in due course. Marketing can affect the game's reputation because if it's done right, then many will look forward to the game releasing and eagerly wait to do so, garnering more hype around the game and thus more attention around it, as many people may want to see what the game is about and indulge in the pre-existing content used to market the game, and this will lead to the game having a positive reputation, and it will lead into more people buying the game when it releases. Of course, whether the game fails or succeeds to live up to its hype is an entirely separate matter, so I shan't discuss it in this video. However, if the game's marketing isn't that good, then that will affect the way in which people perceive your game. It will show to the fans that the game may not be worth the possible hype that could have been centered around it, and they'll most likely leave it be. However, one of the worst things that can happen is if people, somewhat justifiably, began hating on the game due to its failure to properly market itself and show itself off in a positive light, and this can affect a multitude of different things. The amount of sales it gets upon release, the developers working on the game being unnecessarily hated on for things that they don't feel like are their fault, and most importantly, it affects the reputation of the game. It gives the game a negative reputation, and it makes it harder for the game to be successful as a result of that stigma surrounding it. Akin to many things, what happens now affects what will happen in the future with a game, and the game's marketing can have a multitude of different consequences, both of which are positive and that are which of negative, and this is something that I want to discuss in this next part of the video. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of ways in which the concept of marketing can have a multitude of different effects on how the game does when it releases. It can affect the game's sales and it can affect the game's reputation, due to the fact that what is shown can allow for the player to deduce what the game will be like and whether they'll enjoy it or not. It's for this reason that you need to advertise the game properly, in a way that shows what the game is capable of while also being faithful to the source material, meaning that you shouldn't attempt to mislead the players with what's within the game and the content within it. Try to show a bit of everything that the game has to offer. The way the game performs can be very dependent on the game's marketing marketing. If done right, then the game will most likely succeed. However, if it isn't done right, then the game may fail and develop negative press around it, further damaging a potential brand as well as the future of the game. One of the ways in which it can affect the game positively is that if it's done right, then the game will be able to flourish and develop a fan base, increasing in sales as well as a general audience. This will allow for more possible entries due to the fact that, as we all know, money is the indicator for most publishers and they will objectively pursue a brand if it brings them success. However, if the marketing fails to impress a general fan base, then it can have a lot of negative effects on the game. For example, the game may develop a negative press around it and this will affect the outcome in a multitude of different ways. For example, some people may dislike the game due to the fact that what is being shown is unsatisfactory, and many may become vocal about such a thing. This ultimately will lead to a negative reputation being developed which will deter possible newcomers to the game as well as pre-existing fans who are attentive to the game. This would ultimately affect the game's sales and therefore its ability to succeed. There are times where I've seen games that have good and promising gameplay, yet such a thing goes unacknowledged by some due to the bad marketing of a game. An example I'm about to use comes from a very subjective place, and you're not obligated to agree with me. Sonic Frontiers is a game that is mixed, with some liking how the game is turning out and others disliking how the game is turning out. Personally, I'm not exactly ready to give my stance on such a thing yet due to the fact that it's unrelated to the video, but as many pointed out, the way in which Sega have gone about marketing the game is questionable to say the least. By allowing for IGN to release gameplay before they actually revealed anything of substance themselves, that and they also showed off completely different builds from one another, meaning that sometimes we got early builds and other times we got more recent builds, causing a lot of unnecessary divide in the fan base. It says a lot when Nintendo releases a significantly much better trailer than what you put out throughout the entirety of June. That said, this isn't really to say that I dislike Sega or anything of that sort. I guess I'm just critiquing their methods of marketing the game. Sonic Frontiers at the moment is an example of how marketing is vital and how such a thing can have a negative impact when the marketing is mismanaged. A lot of people disliked the game when it was initially revealed for a multitude of different reasons. Of course, such a thing is subjective, but a lot of the issues with the reception of the game's reveal initially was undoubtedly caused by Sega and their failure to market the game properly, perfectly displaying why marketing your game properly is important. With that, let's conclude things then. Marketing any kind of product will always be one of the most essential parts to creating something that will be a financial success. Remember that when it comes to games being released by AAA companies, while they objectively need to care about the reception, they also need to care about the success it brings them financially, due to the fact that they need to make more than they invest into a project to avoid bankruptcy, as well as be able to make more of said product. It's for this reason that they need to make as many sales as possible so that they're able to sustain themselves as a company. Marketing matters due to the fact that it can be of importance when it comes to the future of a game. If the marketing is good, then the game will reach more people and build that attention and audience it needs to succeed. However, if the marketing isn't good, then the game will gradually build a negative reputation before it's even released, due to the fact that many would either not acknowledge the game or be dissatisfied with what's being revealed, even when said thing is decent. Marketing affects more than just the game. It affects the developers, who may rely on feedback to improve upon their game, or the company itself, that need to maintain the reputation of being able to put out good games. Marketing matters with video games, akin to that of any product, and for that reason, companies should always take such a thing seriously. So, there's the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm currently making this video in July, so I'm unsure of when you're seeing this video, but nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed, even if what I may say about some topics discussed within this video is outdated. If you want to follow me, then my socials will be linked in the description, as well as any afterthoughts or messages I may want to add. With that, I haven't really got much else I want to say, so I'll see you all in my next video. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.